So, as you all know, my name is Gage, and I'm going to be interviewing several people. Some of them, like I said, are real life friends, some of them are other VTubers. The person I have brought on today is my real life friend, Violet.
Hello. How y'all doing today?
Anything you want to say about yourself before we get into the questions?
I have experience in both mental health and substance abuse, which you will learn. Um, yeah, I'm a mom of three boys, and I am now grandmother of two young boys.
That's unreal, bro. I didn't realize that your kids had
Yeah,
kids.
yeah.
Oof.
My babies have babies now.
Oof. So, first up, you already pretty much answered this, but what is your personal experience? Are you only mental health or substance use experienced, or both?
Both. I have dealt with mental health issues since I was 9 years old and started with substance use probably around 15 and got onto the harder stuff at age 19. So, yeah, for a long time.
That is a long time. So, next question. How did you decide to go to treatment?
Um, well, with my mental health when I was young, I was forced to go to treatment for that or whatever, but I decided to actually get mental health treatment when mm, it's been probably 8, 9 years ago that I started getting back into my mental health treatment. I never went to treatment for substance abuse.
And that's fair. Some people never go, and some people find it helpful. So, then what type of treatment did you go to first? And did it take multiple tries?
Um, I will say that it takes a while. Like when you're young, like you just go to who your parents take you to, and you just deal with whatever. Um, but I will say that like finding the right person who you're comfortable talking to and you feel like they actually are listening rather than judging you and trying to help you figure out, what's best for your mental health. It takes a lot to be able to do that. So I finally found that.
I'm glad you did. Can you answer what was your primary reason for seeking treatment?
um, I was constantly depressed. My anxiety was getting worse by the week. And I just wanted to try to feel like a normal person again.
Would you say that you've got multiple reasons for going, or that your reasons have changed over time?
Oh yeah, my reasons have definitely changed over time. Um, Now, like I've been with the same therapist for 3 years, and now we're just now finally getting into some of my childhood trauma, which has taken me a very long time to get to.
Understandable. You gotta have that trust with them to even want to delve into all that.
Yes.
Do you have anything else to add about like reasons for treatment, or what made you, or how you decided?
Maybe not even just a reason to get into treatment, but things that I have acknowledged after getting into treatment, like have been mind boggling at points. even just awareness of like how my moods would switch from one extreme to the next and not even really being aware of it until I learned it was a possibility with some of the diagnosis that I had.
Right, proper education that we don't really get from standard school. Even if you go to college and like study psychology,
Yeah,
they don't necessarily
yeah,
tell you all of those things.
right.
So, in your treatment, what has been your experience with medication? By which I mean, did somebody talk with you about meds? Did you have a choice of taking anything versus not? Were you pressured at any point in your recovery to take them?
I've had lots of experiences with the medications, including like what even when I was younger, the way that medications have changed. Um, like I had something that worked for me for a long time, and then because it became a controlled substance, it was no longer available to me. Um, and now, since I don't have that medication, I am on 4 medications now for my mental health. I don't think I was ever forced to take mental health medications except maybe when I was in foster care. Um, but there's like I will say that now that having the gene site testing is very good because I learned that multiple medications that I had tried weren't beneficial for me because of they weren't the right for my chemical balance, you know what I mean? So having that has helped a lot with determining what medications are going to be more helpful. But at the moment, we're still working on my medications.
So, so you've done the gene site testing, which, I've heard about, but I haven't had it done myself. But has that helped you narrow down what meds you should, like, that would be
Yeah.
helpful?
So my therapist and the doctor put in what diagnosis I have, and by doing the gene site test, it tells you what medications work best for your chemical code, or chemical sequence, or what DNA sequence. I don't know exactly
Yeah.
how it works completely, but it has helped narrow down to what medications I can take. But with some of the physical health conditions I have, it's harder to give me some of those medications because it can lower your heart rate too much and or make heart palpitations, and I already have those a lot. So it's been difficult trying to still figure out what's going to work best for me. It's like I said earlier, I am the problem child when it comes to health.
Understandable. Like, yeah, it's the gene site is just another tool, and you still have to work closely with your doctors.
Yes, absolutely.
So, is being involved in the community important when in some form of recovery, or if you have other support like family or friends who are aware and supportive, is that enough? And again, everyone's different and what they need is different. Just generally speaking, in your personal opinion as somebody with lived experience.
Okay, so when it comes to like mental health recovery, a good small social circle is always really good. Um, Depending on your mental health, it would depend on being part of the community is a good idea or not. But when it comes to substance abuse, I do think that if you're in recovery, that um, it is good to be out in the community doing things for others because you can see where you once were while you're recovering and decide that you don't want to go back to that, if that makes sense.
It does to me, but that might be because I work in the field and people talk about it all the time.
Do you want me to go more into depth?
If you feel comfortable doing so.
Okay, so When I first got off of the hard drugs, I wasn't really given a choice about it, and that's why I didn't go into recovery. And I would say that what happened was kind of a form of recovery for me. I actually got dropped off at a homeless shelter and was told I had nowhere else to live. So I walked into the homeless shelter and they drug tested me and told me that within 30 days, if I wasn't clean, I didn't have a place to live there. So I stopped using drugs. And the next week, the person who dropped me off at the homeless shelter, he called me and asked me if I wanted to do drugs, and I told him no. And so when the homeless shelter was doing things, um, even after, so they helped me get a place and everything after so many months of staying clean, and um, I try to like donate to that shelter and things because I don't ever want to get back to that point again. Like when I was in college, we did a clean up the park. It was called something, I don't know, something Roots, and we cleaned up a lot of the parks and stuff, and just seeing the needles and the crack pipes and stuff at a park just it makes you feel shameful for specific things that you did when you were stupid.
I remember that event. I didn't participate, but I remembered that event.
Yep.
So, for the next question, for those that have a negative view of any form of treatment, be it therapy, meetings, rehab itself, what would you say to somebody if they told you they had to go to a mandated treatment? And this is presuming this is a person you're relatively close with or someone that trusts you enough to tell you this kind of thing.
So this is a person who doesn't believe in treatment that is mandated to go to treatment.
Yeah, like they have a negative view of it.
Okay, so just even if you don't think it's going to work, you got to do it anyways, or you're going to go to jail, you know? So you might as well try it and put in the effort so that you can, and then if it doesn't work, come and talk to me about why.
Well said. I think now, especially, there's a lot more good in treatment than there was like years ago, just because like we have peer support, we have case management, we have counselors, we have therapists. If it's a dual diagnosis program, we have therapists anyway. Not all of them are dual
Right.
diagnosis.
Right.
So you already answered this, but I'm going to ask you again.
Okay.
Did you go to therapy?
Yes.
Was it by choice? Did you have more than one therapist throughout your time in recovery? Are you still in therapy?
Yeah, I've had multiple therapists. I still am in therapy. Um, like I said, it took a while to get there, and I've probably seen 12 to 13 different therapists, and I have three who I can, name. I won't, but I could name that actually made an impact on my life.
Awesome. I'm glad that they did. And then, do you feel like you will ever finish being in therapy? Or do you think you will always being in therapy, even if your frequency of going to appointments is low?
I would like to always be in therapy, and not everybody is like that. But to me, it's a form of an outlet. Somebody who can't spill the tea to everybody else. Who, if I'm feeling a specific type of way, I'm not going to be judged on it. Or if something new comes up with my mental health, I'm not going to be afraid to talk about it.
Well put. Like having that impartial third party to help, like, check yourself.
Yes.
So, in treatment, did you have group therapy or group sessions? How did you feel about it at the time and now?
I've never done group therapy. My therapist is talking about doing group DBT therapy and wants me to think about it, but I'm not sure I'm ready to do that yet.
Understandable. I will say I have done one group therapy session. It was on anxiety. Can you imagine a group of fucking anxious people all working through anxiety together?
Right, right. Well, my anxiety did this. Well, my anxiety did that. Well, it's more of a competition than actually trying to get your stuff out.
Our group was relatively small. Obviously, every group is different. And I do feel like it did help, but maybe it was because I was in college. And the age range was decent. Like, we had, like, people, like, in their earlier 20s, and then we had somebody that was, like, as old as, like, in their early 50s, I think. So, it was, like, a
Okay.
wide range. But again, every group is different. Everybody reacts in group situations differently. Yeah.
Right.
So my follow up question was, have you sought group therapy on your own? And I think I know the answer to that.
No.
Understandable. It is certainly a thing. So relapse, whether it's mental health related or substance, happens. How do you or did you react at different times in your recovery? How did you and those around you, if you had supports, handle it? So like I said, relapse happens.
It's hard. It's hard for me to like see mental health as relapsing
Hmm.
because if I seen that as relapsing, I would be relapsing every single day.
Okay, let me
I have
re
borderline personality disorder, so that's why I feel that way.
understandable. Let me reframe the mental health relapse. By mental health relapse, I mean like going back to old behaviors that you had put down for like a significant period of time, whether it was like 3 months, 6 months, like a whole year, but your mental health, worsened again and you slipped back into those old behaviors for a period of time. That's what I meant by relapse.
Yeah, I don't know if I don't know if I can explain that or not. Like, but I can the substance abuse because when you're in I guess so say hard drugs or heroin and cocaine. I've not done heroin, but I've done a couple different forms of cocaine, and um, you say that you're not gonna, you have these moments when you're high that sometimes you're even thinking like I'm not gonna do it again or whatever, but then you have these cravings or you're around specific people and it just influences that relapse or what have you. There are specific triggers, especially with things you see at gas stations and stuff that you like if you're stopping a hard drug that you have to get used to seeing on a regular basis. Some people it's Brillo, some people it's a syringe. I don't know. But you have to be able to get used to seeing those in everyday life. And you'll every now and then you're having a hard time, you're still gonna, think about it, but what's always made it easier for me is just remembering a moment with my kids when they were young, when I was still on drugs, and I never want my kids to look at me that way again. So it's always kept me from doing it again.
Thank you for sharing using those coping skills. Look at you go. So I have one last question in relation to this. How did you return to your recovery journey after a relapse? You can be as detailed or not as you like.
So after the homeless shelter, I never really relapsed on hard drugs ever again. I mean, I smoke pot, and I know it's still a substance or what have you,
Mm.
but it's not what I like. It's not it wasn't my drug of choice a long time ago. Um, but with, I guess, I don't really know how to answer that question.
That's fair, no worries. So I'll just move on to the next one. Do you think it really gets easier with time? By this, have you had an easier time as time has gone on, as you're more used to this stuff, so to speak?
With substance abuse, it absolutely has gotten a ton better. Like every year, like I make sure that I celebrate that sobriety from that hard drug, and it's been almost 20 years. Um, so I'm pretty excited about that. Now with mental health on that part, I could, like I have learned many coping skills over the years, and sometimes specific ones work, sometimes they do not. I still have days where nothing works, but it's easier to know that it's my anxiety versus a heart attack. It's easier to know that this too shall pass. You know, it's a lot easier for those things than it was, say, even 5 years ago.
Progress is progress.
Absolutely.
And that actually leads us into our next question. What are your most utilized and or favorite coping skills?
Do you know what a picky pad is?
I don't think so, but I think I might know what you're referring to. You want to explain it though?
So, a picky pad is this thing, and it's made out of silicone that has specific quote unquote treasures in it. They may be beads or little emblems. Sometimes people put crystals in them. Sometimes they put little like charms or something in them, but the silicone dries, so you have to pick all the stuff out of them. So it keeps your mind from being so like focused, so hyper focused on something that's making your anxiety go up. So it sometimes it's a bad thing for people with OCD because they sit and make their fingers raw because they pick them all out at one time. But me, I give myself a limit. Like I can pick 25 things out at a time. So that's
Awesome.
one of my favorite coping skills right now.
Cool. Never heard of that one before.
I also write. Um, every now and then the 5 4 3 2 1, where you 5 things you see, 4 things you feel, 3 things you hear, 2 things you smell, 1 thing you taste. um it gives you, it's another focus thing, because my coping skills tend to be anxiety based versus my depression. Because my depression I just sleep, and my anxiety I do not sleep, and I can't sit still. So if I'm focused on something else, such as like a puzzle or something else, then every now and then it can keep my mind calm enough.
Awesome. Thank you. So, substance use related question. Do you or did you have a sponsor? Do you or did you attend sober support meetings? And if so, did you find them helpful?
I went to a few NA meetings, but I never really had like support groups or sponsors.
So, no fancy tags or coin for you?
No, not really, but I mean, I've got, let's see, 18 years clean, so I think that's a big achievement.
It is, definitely. So, next up, back to mental health. Or, well, it's both, technically. Do you discuss your mental health and or substance use issues with any of your friends or family?
Yeah, I'm an open book. And when it comes to mental health, I've actually, like, my partner, he and he didn't believe a lot about mental health until he had to understand it being with me. So I've opened his eyes to a whole new world with mental health.
Yeah, there's a lot that the neurotypicals don't
Excuse
understand.
my dog.
No worries, I couldn't even hear him.
He heard the rain.
Yeah, I'm sure mine are about to be doing the same thing. Gonna break into the fucking living room.
Yeah.
So, last question. If there was one thing you could impart to someone considering treatment, whether that's therapy, rehab, or whatever, what would it be?
Um, when it comes to substance use, if they are seeking treatment, do it. I mean, it could change your life. This could be that one time, you know. Just because I didn't go to treatment, I went to a homeless shelter. It was basically the same thing. It was do it or don't do it. You know, it's your choice, but you either get to do it this and have a place under a roof over your head, or you do this and you're on the streets. Like, when it comes to mental health, absolutely seek treatment. Coming from somebody who has been in, had to deal with mental health her whole life and who has lost somebody to their mental health that's very close to them, please seek treatment. You're never alone.
Thank you for sharing and answering all of my questions.
You're very, very welcome.
It has been a pleasure, as always, to speak with you about these sorts of things. I'm very honored that I have such a good friend that I can talk to so candidly about these things.
I will always be here for you,
You're too
as you have
kind.
been for me.
I do my best.
Mhm.
So, as always, thank you for watching. Like Violet said, if you're thinking about treatment, please give it a go. And like she also said, you're not alone. We're in this together.